everyone, welcome to the channel. Today I'll be discussing if the iPad 4th Gen is still worth it in 2020. Stick to the end to find out. Let's get right into it. Get into the video, I would just like to say that I do not recommend buying the 4th Gen anymore because there are much better iPads that you can buy for the price. So yeah, with that out of the way, let's get right into it. iPad 4th Gen was released on November 2nd, 2012. It was shipped with iOS 6 and has now ended with iOS 10. Because of the fact that it's running iOS 10, which is nearly 3 versions behind iOS 13 at this point, most apps will not support it, so you will have to download the latest compatible version. That usually leaves you with pretty buggy apps, so the experience is not ideal anymore in 2020. Although you can still get by, and it's still pretty usable. The iPad 4th generation comes with an A6X chipset and a single gigabyte of RAM. These specs are not ideal anymore in 2020, although it's still pretty good. The 1 gigabyte of RAM and the pretty low underpowered chipset causes you to experience some lag every once in a while, but it's usually pretty usable, although in most cases you'll see some lag spikes even on the home screen. iPad 4th Gen also comes with a 5 megapixel main camera, which can shoot in 180p, although it's not that good and you probably wouldn't want to be shooting any video or photos on it. It comes with a selfie camera, which is 1.2 megapixels, and can record in 720p. It's practically identical to the webcams shipped on the new MacBook Pros. Although it isn't that bad, it's still not good, and I wouldn't recommend using it unless you really had to. The iPad has a Retina display with a resolution of 2048 times 1536. It's not the best display, but you can get by with it very well. Photos and videos look reasonably crisp, and it's pretty okay. It's not as good as the new iPad Pros or anything, but you can definitely get by pretty well on it. The iPad 4th Gen originally shipped with an 11,560 milliamp battery, although it may have significantly degraded over time, as it's nearly 8 years old at this point, but you still will probably get at least a day's use out of it. The battery could have degraded a lot, and if so, you might want to look into getting the battery replaced eventually. But other than that, it's a pretty high capacity battery, and you should be able to get at least a day's use out of it. It has the old home button, which does not have Touch ID. Because of that, if you want security, you'll have to use a passcode. There's also no Face ID, as that was not introduced until the iPhone X. So yeah, if you really want security, you'll have to use a passcode. So it's a bit inconvenient, but it's still pretty usable and still pretty fine. This was also the last iPad to ship with the old iPad 2 style design. As a result, it has the largest bezels that have been on an iPad, which were made much more thinner on the iPad 5th generation the next year. However, this does not really hurt the experience, and it is still pretty good. And the bezels allow for you to hold the iPad better in your hands. Although they might not be the best and most modern looking, it's still pretty usable and pretty okay in 2020. On the back, you have the old aluminum style design with a single speaker on the back. The design of it is pretty okay. While not the most modern looking, it's still pretty recognizable and great. It has plastic volume buttons and power button, and the speaker is pretty good as well. It also comes with a headphone jack, which is a pretty nice feature to have in 2020. While it can easily do stuff like watching YouTube videos and streaming music and other videos, such as on platforms like Netflix, you can't really do much more than that. Sure, you can play some simple games, but most 3D games will cause it to lag very hard, and you probably won't be able to play your favorite games. Sadly, because it has a 32-bit CPU, it does not support iOS 11, and as a result is limited to, at the latest, iOS 10. Though it is stuck on iOS 10, you can do most stuff like play games like Minecraft, and you can also use FaceTime and mail, and practically do whatever you could do on iOS 13, although it will be a bit sluggish. This iPad comes with a lot of different storage priorities. You can get 16 gigabytes, 32 gigabytes, 64 gigabytes, or even 128 gigabytes. Although 16 gigabytes is very hard to get by in 2020, so if you're gonna get it, I highly recommend getting the 32 gigabyte model at the minimum. It also shipped with a Wi-Fi and cellular model. So the model I currently have here is the cellular and Wi-Fi model. So that means I can put a SIM card in it and use it to make phone calls and stuff. Although you can get the only Wi-Fi model as well to use it as a regular iPad. So in conclusion, should you still buy it in 2020? No. While it is pretty okay to use, it is still not worth it. You can get a much better iPad for the price of what this sells for. Although if you still have it lying around, you can use it for something. So if you still have it in a junk drawer or something, take it out and maybe you can find a use for it. It's a great streaming player. You can watch YouTube on it. You can do a lot of things on it, so it's still a pretty useful iPad. Although I do not recommend buying it. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and bye.